Hey, what's up, YouTube? I'm Blake,
I'm Cody.
and we are BC Reviews. And today we are reviewing Spider-Man. Now, I actually have a comic right over here. Let me grab that. All right, this is called "What If." This is what if Peter Parker had to destroy Spider-Man. And basically, what happens is this is placed in another universe. It is not the same universe as where Peter Parker became Spider-Man. It's in a universe where Flash Thompson became Spider-Man and decided to use his powers for evil instead of good, so it's up to Peter to stop him. And I really like it. I love the What If series. It features the Watcher, if you know who he is. This is the last issue that he's actually in, or that he is shown in. So if you know who the Watcher is, then you have read a lot of comics, my friend. And if you don't, then that's alright. You're just a beginner. You will find out who he is eventually once you read more comics. But we're going to try and start something that we like to call Comic Tuesday. As obviously, we're going to be reviewing comics and everything else that's associated with the particular hero that the comic is based on. So this is based on Spider-Man, so we're going to talk about his comics, his games, his movies, all that good stuff. And Cody here is going to start us off.
All right. All right, BC reviews, as I'll call you. Um, Spider-Man, before, well, just starting out as a comic book geek, as you would say, Spider-Man, my beginning comic book. And I loved it. I got sucked in. I used to go down when I was younger with my mom or dad to the library and pick up the comic books there. Yes, my local library had comic books, like the novel, like, not the little single issues. And it had some like newer ones from the generation I grew up with in like the '90s and early 2000s mid. So it was interesting. I got sucked in. I related to Spider-Man a little bit. The underdog, the nerd of the whole school, bullied, and the death, everything. So Spider-Man was pretty awesome, and seeing how he got his powers by bitten by a radioactive spider and how you got the agility. In the comic book, you got where he can climb on the walls, the strength, spider senses. But in the movies, they put where he can shoot webs coming out of his hand. In the comic book, he had to build that science, metal, and everything. And they call them web cartridges. And I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, what do you think about the movie? Being somewhat true compared to the comic book. I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, in my opinion, at least, if you're not doing it true to the comic, you're not doing it right. And I did enjoy the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. They're very good, but they would have been, in my opinion, so much better if they had done it more like it was done in the comic book. And they kind of conformed more to the comic in The Amazing Spider-Man, but there were still differences. And if you've read the comics, then there would be noticeable differences. People who have not read the comics would not notice those differences. So, they wouldn't notice them at all. They haven't read the comics, so they wouldn't know. But there were noticeable differences for me. One of those noticeable differences was the web shooters. Yes, he did make his own web shooters so that, he didn't shoot them out of his hand or his wrist or whatever, but he didn't make them exactly like they were in the comic books. In the comic books, it was like this wraparound thing that would go around his entire wrist, and he'd put cartridges in, so there'd be cartridges all along it, and you could just shoot the webbing out of those cartridges. But in the movie, The Amazing Spider-Man, he had like this Oscorp device that he just placed on his suit, like right here, and it would just shoot out basically cables, but they'd be more kind of webby, and he used those as his spider webs. And I didn't. I thought it was kind of weird, but it did. For me, it worked because it was more like the comic book than the Tobey Maguire movies. But it still kind of bothered me. Like, if you're gonna do it this close to the comic, do it exactly like the comic. Don't do it this close and not get dead on. And that was just me. I mean, I am a comic book fanatic. I have 30 different comic books, not just Spider-Man, but And when I see a movie that's not done like the comics, it does bug me a lot, actually. But I deal with it. I don't complain about it or anything. I deal with it and watch the movie. And the movies are usually good, the way that they were done, but still, they'd be much better if they're more like the comics. I mean, the comics are good, and they'd be even better as movies, in my opinion. I mean, don't you agree with that, Cody?
Uh, in my opinion, I mean, I'm kind of like, how you are. I mean, you're gonna stay true to the comics, but in my opinion, if you're not gonna stay somewhat true to the comics or whatever you want to say, make it really good. Like today, we're just doing Spider-Man because in honor we saw the trailer for the Amazing Spider-Man 2 coming out in May 2014. And the way I saw Rhino, I think he was a hired gunman or whatever for Oscorp, the Steel thing. And the way they put Rhino in this one is a big, huge mechanical suit. In the comic book, he was like I guess a regular guy in the street, and Oscorp took him in and mutated him, and he got really bigger and stronger, and a horn come out of his head. And that's how he became Rhino. But in Amazing Spider-Man 2, that I saw in the trailers, it's just like a gunman, gangster, whatever you want to call him, and he got the mechanical suit, and I think that's pretty cool. And the one video game, the Ultimate Spider-Man, I believe it's called, I did not like it because how they put Rhino is he was just some teenager, a little teenager, going on a rampage trying to kill his bully. And they even put that in one TV series I hated so much. I love, the 1990, early 2000s, the animated series Spider-Man. I mean, what about you, Blake? Did you grow up on that like me?
I I definitely grew up watching that show. I don't know how you could grow up in the 90s and not watch that show because the animated series was the best cartoon ever for me. That would be, 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturday, wake up, watch that, among other cartoons. But, I mean, it was really, really good. It was practically dead on with the comics. He had the web cartridges. It was as close as you're gonna get to the comics in a TV show, and it was absolutely fantastic. I loved every bit of it. I still watch it today because it's on Netflix. If you guys want to watch it or let your kids watch it, so I do enjoy it. I grew up watching it. Um, Now the movies, on the other hand, were good, but not as good as the animated series or the comic books. But it is a matter of opinion, so you can't just be like, no, the movies were so much better than the show or whatever. No, that's not how it works. It's my opinion, and you can't change my opinion. So if you don't like my opinion, I'm sorry that you don't like my opinion, but that is my opinion. And another thing, the villains. There are so many, so many, so many villains in Spider-Man, in the world of Spider-Man. And my favorite is Carnage. Now, I'm gonna just go ahead and list the others. We got Venom, Carnage, Sandman, Green Goblin, Hobgoblin, Harry Osborn Green Goblin. Um, we got Electro and Shocker. We got the Kingpin. We got Hammerhead. We got Tombstone. We got Rhino. We got the Lizard. We got a lot that I don't even remember because there's just so many. But like I said, my favorite villain is definitely Carnage. He's just this red, kind of skinny skeletal thing, and he has got this demon look about him, and I just absolutely love it. I mean, don't you agree, Cody?
Yes, Carnage, I gotta say, is probably one of our favorite characters. I mean, second to the Green Goblin. I mean, Green Goblin is second in line to the Norman Osborn one, and even Harry is my favorite as well. So Carnage was pretty interesting. He's very violent and wicked. He was like murder crazy. I mean, that was his addiction. Like even you find out before he became Carnage, Cletus Cassidy, Eddie Brock, who was Venom, him and Cletus Cassidy were both in cellmates in there. Did not like each other, hate each other. Um, when Eddie Brock was about to become Venom, some of the symbiote oozed off of him, and asexually came on to, Cletus Cassidy and formed Carnage. And Cletus Cassidy, before he became Carnage, like I said, was cellmates with Eddie Brock. And Cletus Cassidy was murder crazy even before that, but it's like once he hit Carnage, he was like unbelievably murder crazy, obsessed, wicked, faster, and strong as well. I think he was faster and so much better than Venom, in my opinion. In fact, Venom was more of an anti-hero. Speaking of, super villains, there's like two different categories in the Spider-Man. There's super villains and super monsters. Super villains is like Venom uh, and stuff like that. Super monsters like Hammerhead and Kingpin. I mean, don't you like the categories they kind of put up in the comic book? Like,
Yeah, I mean, not that there were very many categories that needed to be there, but it was nice to have the categories, just so you can organize the villains, so to speak, I guess. But I mean, Cody does make very, very good points. I mean, getting into Spider-Man. Spider-Man wasn't my first comic book, actually. Green Arrow was my first comic book, but Spider-Man was definitely my second comic that I started reading, and Spider-Man would be a great first start uh, for comic book readers. Now, it will be a bit intimidating at first, but once you learn how to read the comic book, it'll be very entertaining and fun to read. I even asked for some more comic books for Christmas because that's how much I love comic books. They are absolutely amazing, and I love them. Now, the games. There have been a lot of games so far. Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, and The Amazing Spider-Man are the ones that we're going to talk about. Now, I remember when I first got Spider-Man, it was actually Christmas a long time ago, like 11 or 10 years ago, and I got my first game console, which was a PlayStation. No, that wasn't my first game console. My first game console was a Nintendo 64, I believe, and then GameCube, and then PlayStation 2, which is what I got that Christmas, along with the first Spider-Man game, and it was pretty cool. I was like 7 years old, and it was a very, very cool thing to be able to play. Of course, you couldn't go on the ground. You try to go on the ground, you die, but you can crawl you can, crawl around on the sides of the buildings and web swing between buildings and beat up bad guys that are on the tops of the buildings. And there were still missions, like there was one boss fight with the Green Goblin where you have to swing between buildings and try and hit him and get his health down. And that was a very, very fun thing to do. And then when Spider-Man 2 came out, I actually got that on Nintendo GameCube. When that came out, they actually added in the ability to allow you to walk on the ground. And that was absolutely amazing for me because I was like 8, I think, 8 or 9. And that was just absolutely amazing to be able to just walk around on the ground when in the previous game you could not. And you could still web swing between buildings. You could still, beat up bad guys and do the missions and everything. And Doc Ock was in that one. He was like the main villain of that one, and it was cool to get to fight him. It was a bit challenging, but I wasn't a very pro gamer, but it was very fun. And then there's Spider-Man 3, which I got for PlayStation 3, and that one was pretty cool. Considering we had not only Harry Green Goblin, but also the Lizard and Sandman and Venom. And it was pretty cool to have those three villains in the game, even though they weren't in the movie, but they were in the game. Well, Sandman, Lizard, and Harry Osborn, Green Goblin were in the movie, but the Lizard was not, unfortunately. But he was in The Amazing Spider-Man, which was really cool. I'm glad they did him. They did him very well, I would say. But the black suit in Spider-Man 3 was the most fun part, just because it enhances your abilities, makes you stronger, better, faster. So it's pretty cool. Um, I also had the ability to play as Harry Osborn, Green Goblin, because I think there was like an option for it in the game, and you would use your DualShock controller, the DualShock 3 motion controller, to control him while he's flying. That was pretty cool. You get to play as him because I didn't have the web swing. I flew, so that was pretty cool. But I mean, what do you think, Cody?
uh, I never played the Spider-Man ones that you played. The ones that I played and grew up on were the PlayStation ones, and they were true to the comics, and I like the storylines though. And the PlayStation One game, the first Spider-Man game I played, it was with Doc Ock and Carnage actually teamed up, and put out this toxic gas in the world. And the big villains I remember in there, like boss fights, as we call, were Scorpion was probably the first one. Rhino, uh, Doc Ock, and Carnage, and even Symbiote Doc Ock, which I thought that was awesome. And Venom is also in there, but Venom helps you out as well. You don't get to play as him, which that's sad. He helps you out. I and in that one, in the PlayStation One, Spider-Man, you can't go on the ground. You gotta go on the building, swing and swing, and that's about it. And Spider-Man 2 game, the big villains in that is Electro, Shocker, um, what's his name? A Super Mobster, Hammerhead, and then the Lizard also as well. And that's about it. But and for the PlayStation 2 Spider-Man game I played was the Ultimate Spider-Man, and I thought that was pretty cool, but also kind of because you get to play as Eddie Brock, Venom in there, and you play as Spider-Man. But I liked everything about that game besides the storyline. It was weird, and kind of put formations with Electro, Rhino even in there, the Green Goblin even Venom, Eddie Brock. So, anyways, enough about the video games. Let's move on to oh, let's move on back, I believe, to the comic books. Let's move on to the comic books. I mean, do you have anything to add on?
Uh, I mean, I can't think of anything to add on to the review. Um, I mean, unless you can think of anything you want to add in, Cody.
I can't really think of anything to add on to the comic books. I mean, not to the comic books, but the video games. But the comic books, yeah, I got a few things pop out. In the older ones, you see, I like how they put Spider-Man now, how he looks like a like a badass guy. Excuse my language. And even when you see him as a nerd guy, he still looks awesome. Still looks like real good-looking guy, and has somewhat of friends, I guess you'd say. But in the other one, he wasn't good-looking. He was the nerd, had no friends, and extremely bullied. And I just like seeing how they show him from that, compare him to today's comics, and even the movies. And I just like how they just do that for our generation from back then. And I like to see some people experience that, like how I experienced it. Read comics today generation to back then. And I mean, what do you think about that?
I thought that was very clever too. I mean, they kind of took this lonely little high school kid and made him into a superhero. That's kind of everybody's dream is to be a superhero, and they let that be true in this one instance, and that was cool. I'll admit it. It was really cool, and I liked it. It really spoke to me, and I liked it. Um, I mean, is that all you wanted to add? Is there anything else that you've got an opinion on, Cody?
Also, with the villains back then, you might see him in one comic book, and you see him like as this weird, wimpy guy. And some of the creators now for the newer Spider-Mans or whatever, they'll look back to the old comic books and make them better, and you'll see them more in the comic books. Like, oh, I believe Chameleon. Chameleon was not that good. He was like a shapeshifter, and I still don't like him today. They try to make him look good and everything today. Kind of eh. But you see him more, and you see him more as kind of like intimidating and everything. But what I mean? In the movies, you know, I didn't really care for the Tobey Maguire series. But now, with the Amazing Spider-Man with Andrew Garfield, with the second one, I got high hopes for the second one. And from what I saw in the trailer, it's not disappointing. It looks awesome. It looks like you see some Easter eggs in the trailer, maybe. And with the Andrew Garfield ones, the Amazing Spider-Man, they look better than the Tobey Maguire ones, in my opinion. And I didn't hate the Tobey Maguire ones, but you just see it wasn't really that true to the comic book, and they were just kind of about it. Because Eddie Brock, you noticed, he wasn't really a geek. or whatever you want to say. He was honestly, he was a photographer, but he was also an angry guy. So, you know, I mean, that's all I can think about now, Sam. What about you, bud?
Um, yeah, I mean, you pretty much covered everything I would have said. So, yeah, I mean, Eddie Brock was, he was an angry guy, and I think he also had, hatred towards Spider-Man and Peter Parker, and that kind of fueled the fire for the symbiote that latched onto him and made him into Venom. So that's just what I think. I mean, do you think that's pretty accurate, Cody?
Um, Not really. Just back in the comic books, he kind of hated already Peter Parker because he was a big competition for him with the photography. And I think even back then, you know, Eddie Brock did a good job. That's all I can think of. So, you know, I don't know. What do you think of anything else to add on?
Um, well, I can't think of anything else to add on. I mean, we've covered everything that I wanted to talk about, and I just want to say thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned on Friday as we'll be putting up another review this week for The Walking Dead season 2. Since we did season 1 last week, we're going to do season 2 this week as well. And if this goes well and you guys like Comic Tuesdays, then we will continue to do Comic Tuesdays. So we'll have 2 videos each week. Tuesdays will be comic reviews. Fridays will be Walking Dead reviews until we finish up to season 4, and then we'll either put something else on Friday or choose some other day to start something. You never know. But it's up to you guys. Whatever you want us to review, put it in the comment section below, and we will review it. We will definitely review it, and hopefully you like the review. As we try to make quality videos. We really do, and you know, just be respectful of our opinions. I know we aren't always going to have the same opinions as you guys, but just respect our opinions as we're going to respect yours. Don't leave any hateful comments or insults or anything like that. Just be nice about it. We won't remove any hateful or troll-like comments. If your comment is marked as spam by any of the users, I'll probably just remove it just so it's not there anymore. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Uh, you know, uh, Spider-Man is awesome. Go get the comics, get the games, watch the movies. We highly recommend it. And we hope you guys tune in on Friday to watch our Walking Dead review. And we'll see you next time. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm
I
Blake.
just had my period. I had to get that.